Are gonna.
Well, I'm recording to my computer in case anybody goes looking for this, but I will upload this on the Google site that I have set up for family testimonies and stories, and it has our wedding cantata in there, rehearsal dinner. So I'm Randy, if anybody doesn't know who I am. And I am so glad to be here today because I, as we've dug through some of these files recently around Pace's unveiling, we found a treasure trove of a story of how my grandfather, A.J. Robinson, escaped from Latvia, which then, we had sort of the hard paper trail of that Nikki had put together, and but we didn't have anybody's personal story, and we found his story, and then that said, well, you know what, we really haven't spent any time listening to the personal stories of the remaining people who might remember some of these stories. So I really wanted to catch Joyce. Joyce, thank you for saying yes first, and Jan and Sandy here today, to just ask you to remember if you heard anything either about the old country or how they got here or any of the story that went with this background story, or do you have papers of this, or just anything that you can remember from that ancestral line. And Rhonda, Rick, both of you two are here today. Richard may be there behind the camera. If you heard, this is already third generation. So what do you remember either asking your grandparents or that your parents told you about their transition from the old country here, life in the old country, their transition here? Because then we're going to try to match it with what Nikki is going to help us with the hard copy and everything. So Joyce, I invited you. We sort of sparked this conversation first, and I'm going to just turn it over to you to start.
Randy, before you start,
Yeah.
maybe just give a little bit background of why we're trying to do this. I mean, what the end goal is.
You go for it, AJ.
All right. Well, just real quickly, on my mom's side of the family, a couple of years ago, there was a big collaboration led by the rabbi and my late Uncle Jarvin and a few of the rest. And we actually made a book of the Levison family.
Go get it. I'll be right.
All right, she's going to go jump in the lake and get it. And we made this, kind of a historical book with pictures and photos and as many of that Levison ancestry trail we can. And we thought, reading all this about Rabbi AJ and his brothers, we felt like we ought to just do the same thing for the Robinson clan, the Robinson side of the clan. And there's she's showing the book. And I think it'd just be nice, something to pass on to the future generation so that it's all chronicled as best we found out in our generation with the stories and the pictures. So that's why we're on a mission here. If you remember back when we had that reunion, I don't know how many years ago, again, where Nikki told that story about how some of the guys got to Knoxville. So we're trying to augment that and eventually get to this book form. Okay, that's it. That's my introduction. Go show them the book.
I will. I'm going to take off my Zoom background here for a second so you can really see it. Just don't anybody faint when they see my office. Where is it? Should be in here. Okay, now find video and effects. Here we go. Let's go with none. Okay. So there's this book. Nikki, we worked hard on this. So what we did is put pictures of what, who we had. These, a lot of Millens, Levisons. And then I asked everybody to, there's my mother. I asked everybody to put updated pictures of their families in. There's Jarvin. And then at the end, we put the whole family tree. Okay? So, and then we...
Really nice.
Yeah, it was great. And we published it. So, that's the goal. That is the goal.
Lovely.
I'm hoping that all of you will help us work on that. Not only so we'll craft the narrative, I'm hoping Rhonda will help us craft the background story. She's the one I know who knows how to write. And then what I would do is assign, like Rick, I would assign you to capture your brothers and their children and write about the Reback family, right? And then somebody would write about the Diffler family. And it's like everybody would write something about their family and who they are, take a good family picture and send that in, and we'll put it together. So it's a project to stay busy for the next couple of years, in case you didn't have anything to do. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. So Joyce, the floor is yours.
Well, first of all, thank you. What a thrilling project. I'm absolutely, I just think it's great for us to be able to be a part of that. So thank you so much. I am so interested in this, so interested in other people's stories. I can't believe I didn't want to know about this years ago when we could have gotten more stories. My dad was so silent about what happened to him when he was young. I know that when he was young, he lived on a dirt floor that they went from shtetl or whatever you call it, place to place to get an education. I know that he would not talk about leaving there. He would not. All I knew that his dad died in the pogroms in Russia. I was told that. He just absolutely would not talk about it. Our story is that he was the youngest of all the brothers. He came over with his mother. The last one to come over is the way I always heard the story. They were on the bottom floor of one of those big boats. He was very, very seasick, very ill, and he just would never talk about any of it. A big thing in his life early on, when he first got to America, was that his brother Frank died. He was riding a horse and buggy, and he got pulled under the reins in the horse. Somehow he got trampled to death by the horse, I guess. And that was huge to my dad because I guess they were so close in age. Of course, my brother Buddy is named after him, Frank. I wish I had more stories about all those days. My dad just wouldn't talk about it. So that's why I could hardly believe what I read about Uncle Morris, Uncle AJ. Abram, I called him. Uncle Abram is what I used to call him back in those days. Because it was so different he obviously would talk about it. And it was just an incredible story to read. Incredible. I know the brothers were all together when they were young in Knoxville, and they were close with each other. and it was just and growing up was a thrilling, joyful time to be a Robinson. It was really fun to be one of 14 cousins. And we were all very proud of ourselves. I wish I had more to say about those early days. I just don't know anymore.
Joyce, do you have any idea of how old he was when he came to this country, or which port he came through?
He came through Texas.
Through Galveston.
He came through Texas. I was told they landed in Knoxville because his mother, Frida, who Phoebe is named after, his brother, I think his name was Milton Thorpe in Johnson City. But then when I read that story about Uncle Abram, it sounds like he was told to go to Knoxville early on. Those two things don't quite go together. But anyway, I'm sure my dad came here because his brother was here, and they were, they were all pretty devoted to each other, is my memory, when they were very young.
Oh, we'll be able to corroborate. I think we know your father's birth date and all that stuff, and we've been able to find those details.
I think he was in his middle teens, I'd say.
He came.
Middle to late teens.
Did you hear anything about that grandfather or anything?
Only that it never.
Never. Okay.
I don't know. I sort of always got the feeling in my head that he was tall like Mitchell. And but I don't know. I just don't really know. Okay. I mean, my dad was probably looked more like his mom.
Right.
My dad wasn't real tall, and Uncle Max was tall, Uncle Abram was tall, and Uncle Sam was kind of tall. I don't know. I don't think
you called him Uncle Abram instead of Uncle AJ. I didn't. That's interesting.
Always Uncle Abram.
We'll be able to find out, when he came, when Frank died, like when they would, the dates, how old he was when Frank died. We'll be able to do some of that, and Nikki, according to the census, you'll be able to tell where they lived when. So we'll be able to do that with hard copy stuff. But what I'm looking for is any other origin stories that you might know. So,
Rick, do you know anything about Zadie? About his origin?
I'm sorry, were you asking me?
Yeah, I was asking.
Oh, yeah. Very, very little. I have, and I don't know who told it to me, some recollection that he escaped late in the night, and they had to bribe some guard to go through a field. And as it turned out, it was a cornfield, and it had just recently been cut, and they weren't allowed to wear their shoes, so they wouldn't make any noise. So I don't know anything about dates, or even I'm not even quite sure what country they were escaping from. I heard Russia. I heard Lithuania. I don't know. I've heard that they came either my grandfather, my Zadie, or my Bubby came through Galveston. And I until Joyce just mentioned, I wasn't sure how they ended up in East Tennessee, but I have heard some story that then when they first landed in East Tennessee, he was selling maps of Appalachia to the East Tennessee locals. And so with the Yiddish accent, I don't know how that worked. And then sometime after that, they started, or he started, I'm not sure who, with a United Auto Parts, which is a place for, and kind of a junkyard associated with the auto dealership things. And I see Lori's nodding, so I'm not completely making it up. I do have that recollection as well. And
Oh, I've been to his little junkyard.
okay, all right.
What
So
we called it on Vine Avenue.
yes, right, on Vine Avenue. Now I'm assuming it maybe wasn't too far from the old JCC, which I think was on Vine Avenue.
Well, no, the old JCC
It was
across Gay Street and way up the hill. I mean, it's
okay.
not that far apart, but still not
Yeah,
not the same.
yeah.
I
Okay.
remember, I remember, I
Business.
remember the name Thorpe. I
Uncle
remember the name
Abram's
Thorpe.
business
It had something to do with their history.
Abram and Morris and my daddy, they all started out on Vine Avenue. My memory is that Sam and Max were in business together, and they were, I guess it was Gay. There was a bridge where that bridge is in my head somewhere, either on Central Avenue. No, it wasn't Central.
Cooper Street.
No,
Cooper.
well, I don't know. Was it Cooper? I don't think
Cooper.
they started there, but maybe they did.
Downstairs.
Yeah, I guess.
There's a business card with the address of the auto art store.
Oh, not at all. No, it's downtown.
Do any of you remember talking about how their businesses started? We believe that Max really started almost most of them in business. He brought them somehow. He was the first. He brought the others over some way. He brought the mom over, and we think that Max had something to do with seeding everybody's business. How about? And that's what at least I think that's what we've been conjuring. That's how when they got to Knoxville, he really helped everybody out.
Do you want me to say something?
Sure.
Yes.
The story that I remember is he came to this country, Max, and went to, I guess, Johnson City or wherever was it his Uncle Thorpe?
Wasn't it BJ Thorpe?
Yes, it's
His
my brother.
Yeah.
And he started there when he came to this country, and they were not fair with him at a point. So he moved to Knoxville, and then you continue the story, which they just said. So that's how he got to Knoxville. I have a photo of, I think it's Max MB, and I don't know who the third one is, on a horse and wagon. Do you have it, Randy?
No. Are you going to let us see it?
You want me to take a
Are you going to let us in that basement, Sandy?
been in that basement, and there are 8 huge boxes. So it's going to be a while till you ever see anything.
Can't wait. So he went to the Thorpes. So we actually have a clue. Nikki, you're there? Are you listening? We actually have a clue on one of the documents that when they first came to America, they went to a family Weilerstein in New York. We don't know if they were cousins or a friend. We don't know. Nikki has tried to find out, how, if anything, they were related. Does that name sound familiar to anything? No. So the earliest recollections that we do have is that they ended up with Mitchell Thorpe in Johnson City, and then I guess came over after that to Knoxville, and then brought each other. So Nikki's audio doesn't work, but she's listening. Okay. So that's as much as we know, what we have talked about here. Anybody else with any other clues of anything they've heard or anything? So we're missing a few other family members. And one of the things one of the things I would like to just ask, it was about Jewish life, and what did you have in the homes? What was that sense of being part of the Robinson family? was there anything standard between the houses? Did you go to each other's house for Shabbat dinner? Like what did that feel like to be in that clan at that time?
Well, I guess I'll start that since I'm probably, well, the only thing we have that came over from the old country, my grandmother, Frida, gave my mother a Kiddush cup that was my dad's most precious possession. And he gave it, somehow Spud got it out of the three of us. I don't know, because you know how Spud could do things. So he got it. And now it's his son's, and we always use it at all our weddings. That was the only object that we ever had.
Wow, I would love to get a picture of it.
I think I have one. It's Brian has it. He just got married.
Yeah,
His grandson.
Easy to get that. Easy to get it.
Books from the Robinson.
I remember. Excuse me. Somebody asked a question.
No.
I remember so many stories when I was little. I remember going over to Aunt Sylvia and Uncle Abram's house because Faye and I used to play together all the time. We didn't live in the same neighborhood, but I guess certainly I remember Yom Kippur with her. We used to call it Yom Kippur, but I've sort of grown up a little bit. Yom Kippur. Faye and I would all the kids would play in the cemetery next to the
Cemetery?
The old beautiful cemetery. That's the oldest one in Knoxville, I think, was behind this. Our synagogue was on Fifth Avenue. I'm talking about after we graduated from Vine Avenue. The center was on Vine, but our synagogue was on Fifth Avenue. And behind that is, I think it's called Old Gray Cemetery. It is, Old Gray Cemetery. And when you go to Knoxville, look it up. It's a beautiful old cemetery. But all the kids in the shul used to go there and play during Yom Kippur because it was a long day, and we all had religious families who observed the Sabbath. Observed Yom Kippur, observed the Sabbath. So did the kids. There was a drugstore on the corner, and when we were really young, we had money to walk over to the drugstore and get something to eat. Once we got to be 13, that was out. But Faye and I would always time ourselves about an hour before Yom Kippur was over. We would walk to her house on Luttrell, make ourselves a great big sandwich, and sit there, wait until the clock struck whatever, and we would bite into that sandwich. That was our tradition. I remember that so well. So that's just one little story I have about that. We lived in East Knoxville. Alfred lived in East Knoxville, and Adele and that whole family lived in East Knoxville. So at least my family would walk. I can't remember the rest of them. We would either walk to the synagogue on the holidays, or on Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah, we would stay at the Farragut Hotel and walk from there. We were quite observant. I think when before my dad married, and early on, I think people gathered at Aunt Sylvia and Uncle Abram's house and would eat there a lot together before they all got married and separated and did their things. Those are just some of my memories.
Great. Jan, want to add anything to that? Let's unmute.
Well, I don't have a lot to add, unfortunately, but I do have kind of a cute story. When I was dating David, uh, we flew to Knoxville for Passover. And on the way there,
Yeah, just give me a context for that story. Where were you living?
St. Louis, both of us were living. He had already moved to St. Louis. That's how I met him.
What year was it?
And I would say it was 19. Let's see, we were married in 57, so this was about 1955, I guess, or 56 maybe, right before we got married. Anyway, I had never met the family before, so I had him tell me all the aunts and uncles' names and all the cousins. And I wrote them all down and I memorized them before we landed. And I remember meeting Aunt Rose and Uncle Max, and I remember meeting Aunt Sarah and Uncle Nathan, and well, of course, all of them. And what was so funny was they were so impressed that I knew which child belonged to whom, and fortunately, David was smart enough to give me all that information, so that was great. And I remember sitting at the Passover meal. Now, I was raised classical reform, and so conservative Judaism was quite new to me, and some of the rituals. And I will tell you that it was the best Seder I'd ever been to, and the longest Seder I'd ever been to, because we used to say, "All right, what's next? When do we eat?" Kind of thing. And but MB was very insistent that we do the full Seder, and it was lovely, lovely. And that's when I met. Well, let's see. The first time, Rick, you weren't even born yet. I don't
I
think.
was born in 54.
Then I
So
guess you were.
Maybe
I
so.
might
guess
have
you
been born,
were.
but
But
I don't remember
oh,
that
wait a minute.
meeting. So
Yeah, well, Lori was born, and she was born in 59. So no, that was a
Just
different
before
time.
me.
That was a different time. It was before my family, right? My girls. But anyway, it was a wonderful memory, and it was just great. So I loved meeting all the family. I have to tell you something. When I married Richard, he was closer to the Robinson family than he was to his own family. And I remember at Betsy Weggerson's wedding, he was introduced as Richard Robinson, Jan and Richard Robinson. He loved it.
Sandy, do you have anything to add to that, to Jewish life? And did you go to each other's houses? And do you have any heirlooms that came over from the old country or anything that tells a story?
I just left the premises for a few minutes and was going outside to do something. So I missed some of it. I took some pictures, some photos just now, pictures of the photos that I can send you if you want to see them now. I don't know. I don't know that I know how to send it. But anyway, yeah, I probably do. Who do I send it to?
You can send it to me. You can text them, you can email them, whatever you want.
Okay.
But I asked Joyce and Jan about family life, and did you, as part of the Robinson clan, did you go to each other's houses? Who did you hang out with? Were you overwhelmed by all these Robinsons? Like, whatever.
Overwhelmed by all the Robinsons. I was all of 18 years old when we got married, and yes, it was very overwhelming. Actually, you usually go on the mother's side, so we went all the time over to Marilyn Cohen's instead of Robinson's. That's all I remember when I was first married. That's 70 years ago.
How'd that sit with all the Robinsons?
Do what?
How did that sit with all the Robinsons? So one of the other questions I have is that we read in this article, and let me say this about Latvia, Lithuania, and Russia. There was a period of time where Latvia and Lithuania were under Russia. So when they came over, I think they were under Russia because I tried to get Lithuanian citizenship this year based on my grandparents and my ancestors' records so I could get in the EU, okay? But I couldn't do it because the time where my grandparents lived in Lithuania, it was Russia. So I don't need Russian citizenship, right? I need Lithuanian citizenship. But there was a period where Lithuania was free, but that's not when they lived there or that we couldn't get the documents for. So my question is, I'll just put the question out there. We read in our article about our grandfather that there was the breakaway synagogue that really became the Robinson breakaway synagogue. But so just think about that. But I want Rhonda. Rhonda's got her hand up. She's a polite Robinson.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, when I read that article, it was fascinating. And I was just reading it as a journalist. Like, how did somebody who just came over maybe 3 years previously have the fluency in English to be saying all this high class, high vocabulary stuff? He must have had an interpreter. And what was the other thing? And I noticed there was no byline on that article. I just wanted to know more about who wrote that article, how it happened. Can you imagine? I mean, even my grandfather, who I barely remember, still had a very heavy accent when I was 4 years old. That's the last I remember. So
He did.
yeah.
It's interesting you say that. I didn't even think in the article it says that he was from the intelligentsia and he was a teacher. So I just figured he was smart enough to pick up English. I'm hoping, but you're right. It came across pretty clear. Interesting. I don't.
It just must have had somebody interpreting it. It was just such highfalutin English, first of all, and right off the boat, I can't imagine that he would be that fluent. So
29 years old.
How much?
I want to jump in on something you said, Randy.
Yeah.
About there was a synagogue. I remember being a little girl, and we went to a shul above Billig's restaurant, Delicatessen on Gay Street. Is that what? Did you just refer to that?
Yes.
That was the breakaway.
The breakaway.
Right.
The way I remember that, what kicked in my memory, and I hope I know Nikki has it if she can. It's probably under my name because I came across this play, this Purim play that my mother directed. And all the kids' names who were in the play. Mitchell was the king. Dolly was Queen Esther probably. I can't remember anymore. But all our names are in there. All our names. I mean, I was little, so I'm sure I didn't have a starring part. But anyway, that play is so precious. Mostly just the names of all the kids and what their little titles were is really fun to look at. If Nikki looks that up, I don't have a copy of that anymore because I don't think that I took a copy of that play and gave it. I think I gave her the original copy.
So Joyce, did you remember anything about that? This whole breakaway is fascinating because Rabbi AJ ended up, I think the Robinsons all kind of broke away into this other shul, but he really got fired, we believe, from the forerunner of Heskamuna, whatever it was called. I don't think it was called Heskamuna at the time. But in this research that we did a few months ago, it also said that he got sued by the synagogue because he was doing doing kosher food. He was a shochet for kosher food, and they were claiming that he wasn't. He was competing against the synagogue, the original synagogue. That was in the newspaper. He got sued. So evidently was a pretty big battle between whoever didn't want him as part of leading the synagogue. They didn't want him practicing in a competitive way in the shul above the delicatessen. It was all in the newspaper.
I
Did you,
never
Randy?
ever,
Did you send that? Did you send that to him?
I never.
We can send that to you.
I
Okay.
say
We
something.
found all these records in the archives of what is it? The East Tennessee Historical Society, something like. It's a fascinating story. So evidently, the break was more than just a little bitty, breakaway. It was kind of nasty. And this is, I guess, was in the 30s, maybe something
I,
like.
I have absolutely never heard,
No, well, you probably were too young to.
no memory.
Uh,
All I do remember is my parents being very protective of Uncle Abram. I mean, I don't know why.
yeah, I think it was I think somewhere along the way, the Robinson brothers were either seen as a threat to the existing congregation, or there was something. The congregation was established back in like 1880, 1890, and they were the new immigrants in the turn of the century. There were families that were older that had been there longer than the Robinsons have, and so there was just something that went on. I don't know. I don't think we'll ever know, but it did make the newspaper.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Never heard that before.
yeah.
Back then, though, I have postcards. Oh my God, if I can find them. Sent from the old country to my father-in-law, and all it was Max Robinson, Knoxville, Tennessee. So there was no address or anything. And
That's right.
obviously, they were well known. And I guess it was a very small community back then.
AJ, who are the people that started the community in 1890? Who are the families?
I think you got to go back and look at just go walk through the cemetery, but there's some graves that go back. I think the Corkland family could have been before us, the Winnick family.
I just
When you go, if you start, the oldest part of the cemetery is up almost at the entrance.
Mhm.
And the Robinsons are definitely very prevalent up there, but there's some ones that are older than the Robinson group that are really more. I remember 1890, 1900. Our guys, I think the mother was buried. Randy, you remember that? Was it like 1930 maybe?
I think it was. I saw that just yesterday, and I think it was 1928.
Yes.
And I'm surprised that she wasn't among the area where we were, because my understanding was that Max had, however they secured those, had a big group of sites for, I guess, his brothers, his family. And a little away from that, probably close near Harold's, Joyce, it said Frida Robinson, and that's all it said. I could hardly read it because I guess it's so old and my eyesight isn't that good. But I had somebody that was with me that said 1928. So
Yeah.
does that sound right? And does that sound like the mother?
Yeah, she's buried over there with the Thorpes. There's some Thorpes.
She's buried pretty near where Harold is buried.
Yes. Okay.
I was 8 years old when she died. I remember that.
Remember anything about her?
You couldn't have been 18, Joyce, if she died in 1928.
I was 8 years old. No, she did not die in 1928. Maybe she came over. The date might refer to something else.
It probably did.
But it's not when she died.
So how old were you when you were 8 years old, Joyce?
Oh,
What year? You mean what year?
That's a trick question.
That's very funny.
Yeah, I do remember she was when she died, it was in I think it was Uncle Abram's house on Luttrell, but not the one they had later. It could have been Uncle Morris, but I think it was Uncle Abram's house. And she was laid out on a table or something and had nickels on her eyes. I was horrified, scared to death, but to keep her eyes closed. And my dad, of course, was he was I just remember he was just so crazy about his mother. But Faye and I were not allowed to go. I don't remember why Shirley wasn't there for the life of me, but I just remember Faye being there.
But we
weren't allowed to go to the burial because we were considered too young to go. So we stayed at home and played.
Do you remember anything about her being a grandmother, like her character or anything like that?
Did she speak any English?
No.
No. So how did you communicate with her?
I don't remember communicating with her. I remember my mother talking about her a little bit because Mother and Daddy must have. My mom also was 18 when she married, and Daddy was 30. That's 12 years difference. I remember that I was told that they lived with Aunt Sylvia and Uncle Abram and the grandmother, and when they first got married, and that I know that the grandmother was the one who gave my mother this Kiddush cup.
Sandy,
So,
did you?
In 1938, if you were 8 years old instead of 1928.
it
Right.
might have been 38, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds more logical. I'll have to look again, but
And I think maybe, I hope there's a little stone nearby with Frank's name on it in Hebrew.
Yeah,
Is there?
there's some. Yeah.
Randy, I'm looking at this book by Wendy Bestman because that story about the breakaway sounds familiar. Have you all used that? Can you see this? Do I need to take my?
The middle. Yeah, there you go.
Let me.
I have to look that up. I didn't know we called it the breakaways. I remember another story about the breakaway. I remember that my father must have been very fond of Ben Winnick because he was upset that the Winnicks were not going, that Ben Winnick was not going to go to the shul, that he was going to go to the Reformed Temple.
and did he?
Because I think Clara, his wife, was Reformed. And that's probably that's probably how that happened. But I can tell you from what I could hear growing up, I mean, everything they did, they were so emotional about everything. I mean, everything was a big deal, as I remember. I mean, they just, in my house, my dad would come home from shul and tell my mother about every little thing that happened. If I only had my mother's memory, you would have so many stories here, but I don't remember all that stuff. I just remember the tumult about it, that everything was just a big deal and emotional and important. Everything. I'd say they were passionate about the synagogue, and the synagogue was so important to them, so important. And I remember my dad being so charitable, always giving money to the synagogue and to Israel. And those are just kind of memories that I have when I was really little.
Mm-hmm. Sandy.
And then my next memory was going to the synagogue with Harold when I was engaged, and how happy was I to be sitting in that same synagogue with him.
Aw.
So
Do you have a memory of Frida Thorpe Robinson?
I don't. It's just the one I told you when she was dead.
And Sandy.
Pardon?
Do you have a memory of Frida Thorpe Robinson?
No, I wasn't even born. Oh, I was just 2 years old. I wasn't here.
You weren't here. Okay.
With my father-in-law, you mean? I know he went over there all the time, and it was to Aunt Sylvia's. And he went over there just all the time to see her. And by the way, he didn't come through Galveston. He came through New York, through Ellis Island.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Election is, I may not be right either because I wasn't a born Robinson, Joyce. but that's what, I had heard. There was something else, but I just can't think of it right now. And I did send you photographs of the photographs.
Betsy Wagon, are you there?
Pardon?
Betsy. Oh, Betsy is here. I want to say
I am. I had you on mute.
Okay. How are you? We're just
okay. Sorry, I had plans and running to the next one, but wanted to stop in and say hi to everybody.
So we are. I asked the introduction question, which is, did you remember anything about origin stories of where they came from, when they came, what life was like in Knoxville, anything like that? Nothing? You got nothing?
I really don't. My siblings were saying I was the only one that, I talked to Mary a lot, but I really didn't hear very much about, as far back as I know for Mary, she was pretty much in America for a long time. So that family, the Milners, were there. And because Sam died so young and Mom was only 16, didn't hear too much about Sam. Right. So, what I know is what you brought up, Brandy, on how they came over. And so I don't know so much of that family tree.
Mm-hmm.
The name was Robinovich, wasn't it?
Yeah. I'm sorry?
It was Robinovich, but they also spelled it Robinson, S-O-H-N, on some of the documents we found, which is also interesting.
Oh.
Haven't been looking there, but yeah. Okay, so you didn't get too much out of your mother. Did she talk to you about anything growing up with the Robinsons, the life they had?
All the time. She felt very close to all the cousins. She talked about her life in Knoxville some, but it wasn't more historical, just a good feeling, how they all hung out together, had holidays together. Being with everybody. But I think she got really hit hard when her dad died. And so she wasn't with as many of them after that, as often.
Okay.
Although with your dad, a lot.
Okay.
That and Shirley. And I know that Dolly hung out with Evelyn. I got some of that. And of course, David was with Phil. That was what I would hear a lot of. Who was which ages. So, Jan actually brought me up to date more on David and Phil than anybody. So, and I thank you.
And we got Betsy in St. Louis now, so we're very happy.
I'm the one that's lucky.
Oh,
Jan knows more Robinson background than most of us.
No, I'm hearing a lot of stuff I never heard before. But I do have a cute story to tell you.
All right, tell us.
All right. Well, we had at one time at our synagogue, B'nai Amunah here in St. Louis, a rabbi named Lynn Liberman. And maybe you remember, some of you might remember Lynn from Heska Amunah and from Knoxville, because that was her home. Anyway, Lynn told me one time that her idol was Aunt Sylvia, because as a child, she used to sit behind her at Heska Amunah, and her silver hair radiated in the light from the synagogue, and she was in awe of Aunt Sylvia and her aura. And I just got the biggest kick out of that because I was fortunate enough to know Aunt Sylvia, and it was such a cute story because you don't expect things like that. You expect to hear things like that from someone who's not from St. Louis, and here she was from Knoxville. And so it was a wonderful memory that I enjoyed hearing from her.
Good. Lori, you want to say hello and say anything? Lori.
Well, I know I had a couple of conversations with Aunt Shirley when I was a teenager. I'm trying to remember what things that she told me. I thought that she said that Zadie, MB, taught at a local college, maybe taught a couple of Judaism classes. Maybe is Maryville a college?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I thought that she said that he taught there.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Wow. I didn't know that. Thank you. Thank you, Lori. I don't know that.
And I know I asked her way back when how the Robinsons ended up in Knoxville, and her one sentence answer was they had a cousin who owned a junkyard nearby. And that still boggled my mind that that would be enough to come from Russia to Knoxville. You know, because all my friends had their family was from New York or Chicago or somewhere. I'm like, why Knoxville? They had a cousin who owned a junkyard. Still seems kind of funny to me. I remember, I'm sure Rick has way more memories of my grandparents than I do, but I remember after our father died, we went and spent like a week in Houston, and that was the most time I ever spent with Bubby. Anyway, all of us grandkids were just, we were like Terry and Marlene and I were all we wanted was for Bubby to take her hair down out of the bun, and she would brush her hair every night. And it was like she had this long silver and black hair, and we just begged her every night to take her hair down so that she would brush it. And I remember you know, Bubby was very weepy at the time because our father had died maybe 6 months before then. And I remember I was kind of, I just was puzzled by why she was crying all the time. And I remember asking Barry, and he said, because of Uncle David, Olive Shalom. And I remember thinking, oh, for some reason that didn't strike me as, you know, that she would still be very weepy about that. And what else? And Zadie was very quiet from what I remember. I remember we had this game where he would like tickle me on the stomach. And I thought that was, he would make me laugh. That was like when I was maybe 5 or something. But Aunt Shirley also told me one time that I think the MB Robinsons, like the cousins, didn't play as much at their house as at the other houses. It was a little bit more, it was not as open of a house as some of the other Robinson houses. I don't know, Rick, if that rings a bell with you at all.
No, not at all. I didn't hear that. No, I have a recollection of my Zadie being or my mother telling me my Zadie had been very much into physical fitness before it was kind of a thing, and that he had been a boxer at some point. You know, who knows? Because I remember she would say he would say, when I hit them, they've got to go down. When I hit them, they've got to go down. So, you know, that's a recollection that I have, and also that Bubby's hair was very long. And listen, she cried about my Uncle David for many years after that. So, but listen, I don't. You keep referring to Zadie, and for those of you who don't know, I now answer to that name as Zadie because I am a Zadie now. So my daughter Jessica and her wife Lydia gave birth to Jonah Robinson Reback on August 15th, and we had the bris and everything is fine. I don't remember a whole lot. It was a long labor, and I'm still exhausted from it, so I'm still recovering. But they're all doing well in Columbus, Ohio.
Wonderful.
So
Also tough.
I'm gonna.
Rick, I want to jump in on something you said because it surprised me. I didn't know that about your dad being physically fit because so was my dad.
Not his dad.
well, it was my grandfather's MB Robinson.
MD.
Yeah.
My dad had weights that he lifted all his life. He would do 100 sit up, whatever you call them, push ups, I think they're called, every morning. And he was very interested in wrestling. Are you sure it wasn't wrestling?
Well, it could be, except I still have the recollection of when I hit them, they've got to go down. And I know I don't recall him jogging even when I was young, but I remember he would go for long walks every day. He would walk for cardiovascular and very much into nutrition and fitness.
Gosh, so was my dad. And I think well, my dad was really into wrestling. They probably went to these wrestling matches together as brothers, I'm betting.
Yeah, no, that's probably right. That's probably right.
Didn't he do the rice diet at Duke?
Yeah, he did the rice diet at Duke.
Yeah,
at
yeah.
University. And I remember when they came to visit us in St. Louis, Bubby Rose would bring her own pots and pans because I didn't keep kosher. So she brought pots and pans to cook his rice in.
Wow, wow. Yeah. They both were strictly kosher all the
Oh,
way.
yeah.
Anybody remember that our grandfather was the shochet of the town? Does that sound familiar?
Yes, very familiar to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is that?
The kosher food, killed the chickens and stuff.
Well, they had a business on Jackson Avenue.
Right.
And I remember going there and seeing all those chickens. And I think Uncle Abram was the one who made them kosher. The way he killed them made them kosher. Mm-hmm. And he was called the Sheikh. Yes.
Well, that's what restarted this query, is that when we had Pace's unveiling on Memorial Day weekend, we ended up at Jackson Avenue, which is for the past 25 years has been a music venue for alternative music in Knoxville. I had not been in the place since I was like 10 years old and saw the chickens. And it was my grandmother's secondhand clothing store.
Yeah, that's right.
We had lunch there afterwards because we kept the building in the family, and we've been giving this place like very minimal rent, like as a donation to do music in Knoxville, so that we could keep the building. So we had lunch there. It's a total, it's graffiti all over the wall. You can tell it's like a real grunge music place. But when that's what started us doing the research on the building, and did my grandmother own it, and I hadn't been in there since the chickens were there. So I actually put in a grant to do a Women of the Bible music festival in that place. It did not get funded yet, but you never know where we're going to, that pilot light will end up. Who has not spoken here?
I just want to tell something about your father, Razel.
Yeah.
When after David passed away, I made a trip to Knoxville just to be with the family, and your dad owned that women's store.
No, that was my grandfather owned the women's store.
Sterling House.
Sterling House that my mother.
Mitchell was there.
Yeah, could be.
He was there, and he was so nice. He bought me a dress. I remember that. He said, "You need a new dress," so he got me a dress from that store, and I thought that was so sweet.
It's probably true. It's probably true. Who here has not said anything? Stephanie, what do you got for us?
Me?
Yeah.
Did you say me?
I did.
I don't know anything. All I know is anything I've heard Mom talking about.
Okay. Anything that you heard her talk about that she has not mentioned here today?
Can't really think of anything.
What about you, Allison?
Um, I just remember my grandfather, I was 8 when he died.
Mhm.
And I just remember the night he died being so sad that I wasn't going to be able to sit in his lap and he was going to not teach me Hebrew because he did it with Phoebe and Stephanie and I missed out on that.
Mm.
I just really remember feeling so horrible about it and being at our house and my parents were in the hospital with grandmommy and Miss Bernstein was there. I mean, it's just such a different, lovely life that I had than I have given my children, who also have a lovely life, but a different one. Of like these friends and relatives and cousin Sandy being there, and like people that you just felt like if I wasn't going to be there with my mother, then at least cousin Sandy was going to be there with me, and that felt really good and comforting, and it was just a very different way of life than I've given my own children, and it was centering. You just felt like there was always somebody there. And I spent a lot of time at Lori's because I spent a lot of time there growing up and playing, and it was fun. But I just remember the sweetness of my grandfather in a way that I think my son is mom has said, very similar. And he's named after him, my son Nathan. And I think there is just a real gentleness. And I don't know if all the other brothers had that. I assume there is a similarity because I don't really know. But I just remember him being like this sweet man that you would hold his hand and it was warm. And I just have those like tactile memories of the sitting in the lap in the chair that my mom has over in the other room still. And I have all the Hebrew books I have all his books. I don't read it, but they're there. And there's stuff like that. It's like really sweet memories. And of course, I have also memories of cousin Sandy and my grandmother laughing and chatting. And that's also a whole separate memory, but a lovely one as well. But,
I remember that too about Poppy. He was very quiet, very calming sort of energy. He was,
Pardon me?
I guess, yeah, wouldn't you say just kind of like he was a calming influence when he didn't talk a lot, but you just got this feeling of really gentleness about him. And he used to teach us Hebrew every Friday night. We'd go for Shabbos and we'd sit in his lap and we'd read Hebrew with him because we were learning Hebrew in Hebrew school. I remember that.
Rick, I think your dad and my dad were a little bit more alike than the brothers when it came to being that kind of personality. Calming, quiet, steady.
Yeah, that was my impression, Cousin Joyce, that I do remember going to synagogue shul every Saturday with my Zadie, and I remember coming out one time, and Bubby and Zadie were both there, and Nathan, I think, walked by and probably said good Shabbos to my to MB, and my Bubby says they're brothers, and I was astounded because I had no idea. And then, of course, when you get even a little bit older in Knoxville, you understood that the entire Jewish community was a Robinson in some way or another.
Yeah. I have memories of my grandmother going to show. My grandfather died right before I was born, and also my other grandfather died when I was 5. So I didn't even grow up with a Zadie.
When did Uncle Abram die? What was the year?
He died, I think, in 51, and I was born in 53.
I remember being in Miami at the time
My
on a vacation, I think. And it was just, it was huge in our life when he died.
How old was he
It's a good
when he died?
I don't know. I'd have to find out. I wanted to show this picture though. This is I think we know where this is, but I don't remember where this is. Do you, Joyce?
This, by the way, the picture itself is hanging on a wall in Shirley's house in Houston. And I
Okay.
took the picture of it because I thought it was just wonderful.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you're sharing it.
So
Yeah.
there's Sarah and Nathan, and then that's
Rose and Max,
Rose and Max.
Mary and Sam,
Right.
Rose and MB, and Sylvia and Abram.
Right.
Easy for me to remember. They all look like that.
Big picture.
So
But they are identifiable.
okay, so we've got the Difflers here from Nathan and Sarah.
Let me interrupt for a minute.
Yeah.
Do you have that picture of Dolly's wedding?
Yeah, hold on a second. I just want to make sure who am I not missing? So we've got Betsy is here from Mary and Sam. Rhonda is here from Rose and Max. Who is here? Wait, is that right? No. Is somebody here from every one of these couples?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah?
Yes.
Good. Okay.
Is it Betsy?
Yeah, Betsy. Yeah.
Betsy, Sam, and Mary.
So that if I've got one of you here from everybody, then this shouldn't be that hard to round up your family members and get a story out of them. Get the story of their family. Like that's what I'm looking for.
So I'm not quite sure. What are you trying to put together? Because I'm sorry I missed the beginning.
That's fine. I'll show you this. Show you this one more time. One second. So this is a book that I did with Nikki of my mother's family. That's my Ella Levison and Brian Levison. And we put the pictures that we have, like that picture would go in there. We put the old country, as much as we had of those ancestors, right? And then I had everybody in their own pod, there's my family, write the story of their family. There's AJ and Eli, and there's the Gilbert Levison, and then we put the big tree in the back. So what we're looking for is, I assume that if I can get Ben Rhonda to help me, I assume that I'll put together some of this narrative background that has the story from our grandparents that they came over from Russia, and I'll do the setup for it, and then write the story of my family. Natalie met Mitchell, when, or AJ Robinson and Sylvia met when, and they lived where, and then they worked where, and they were involved in the synagogue where. So I'll sort of write a story about my grandparents. And then hopefully AJ would write a story about his family, and other people would, write a story, like Gary would write up his family, Rick would write up his, Sandy would write up his, and Rick would be the point person to make sure those other two did it. and get a family picture. Like that's the other key, is to get a family picture in there so that the names go with the people in the book. So Lori, I'm designating you here to be the point person for your family, and Betsy, you've got your work cut out for you. And I don't know
that. Okay.
The Difflers here and the rest of those Robinsons, Spud's kids, see if they can find one. Yeah. Stephanie, Allison, what do you want to do that? It's an opportunity to put this all together. It'll take a little while because people are busy and stuff like that. But I'll write up, I guess at some point I could write up a little blurb that says Robinson Family Gathering for Robinson Family seeking details for a book. But, I'll write up a little blurb that you can send to people or that I'll send out to people. But just to be perking about it, like how somebody could pull this all together, the descendants of those people. So Betsy, you'd have to chase your brother and you'd have to chase it. That kind of thing. But
Okay.
Sandy is holding down the Robinson force field in Knoxville with Karen Robinson. And other than that, I think you two are the only two left there. So it's sort of to write the story of the Robinsons in Knoxville for really a whole generation, and then we're gone. But we might as well capture it for the community as well as our families, and because I think we've made an impact there over time. Not that anybody remembers us too much, but we might as well give them a book, and then they'll remember it. It's better. So, and Yigdal and Hollow don't have kids yet, but maybe one day one of them will have a kid. And you never know in what generation that some grandchild will be particularly interested in this. And it'd be good to have it while we still have some brain cells left between our arms. So that's the goal. Got it?
Well, I applaud you, Hazel, for getting this started because it is important. And the Robinson family of Knoxville, Tennessee, made quite an impression there. So
it's
so let's
phenomenal
do it.
that
Let's do it.
that there's only two Robinsons left in Knoxville, because honest to goodness, I didn't think there were any Jews in Knoxville who weren't Robinsons in one way or another. And I think that's
right. So, I still didn't get a volunteer from those differs over there.
Which one?
Differs. Allison.
What are you asking for?
Yeah, I'm asking for you to be a point person for your family. To help.
Well, I'm sure it's going to end up being me. I think it's just like, why even do I say it? Because I
know the feeling.
See, there's one in every family. There's one in every family. But yeah, help me out here. I can't.
Libertarian bound. Yeah.
Listen, I'm happy you're doing it. I think it sounds really exciting. So
so the earliest that I could even have another meeting would be December. I am leaving next week to lead high holiday services on a cruise ship to Japan and Korea. So
wow.
You are going to love Japan.
I love Japan. Japan and Korea for a month. So then I have to come back at Sukkot, and by the time I surface from all that, it'll be Florida. So I would say see if you can make some progress. That's what I would say. In December, at least to let your family know that this is happening. Okay. And that they should start to collect some photos, or maybe they would take a family picture between now and then. If somebody's getting married or has a baby naming or anything like that. And the family is gathering, start to gather some pictures for it. Now, Rick, do you have the picture from Dolly's wedding? Because that's the iconic picture where they were all together in one. You don't?
Yeah, I don't. I was hoping somebody here does, because I have that picture engraved in my mind, but I don't think I have a physical copy of it.
I don't know where it is, but I must have it.
What is Gary back doing?
Which picture are we looking for?
It's Dolly. When Dolly and Ted got married, all the cousins were in the wedding. Every single one.
All of them were there. It was a
picture.
Wow.
It was it's a beautiful picture. It really is gorgeous.
And it's a moment in time. And that's it.
I've never seen it.
Well, I actually have some boxes for Mom. And if I have a chance, I'll get through and see. I won't know most of the people, so maybe you guys can help me out.
Oh, Betsy, that is a fantastic thing. Bring
Yeah.
pictures in, and in December you'll show them, and if we know them, we'll tell you who they are.
I even have her wedding album, and I know a lot of cousins were in that.
Yeah.
So that would be
Well, Betsy, we'll have a picture party.
yes. If you have the
Jan, you'll have to come over and tell me who they are.
Yeah, well, if I remember, but I've got pictures too, so we'll share.
Okay, sounds good.
well, who has Rick? Who has your parents' wedding album?
That's a good question.
Okay,
I have their dining room table.
so your job between now and December is to find out who has your parents' wedding album. What is
Okay.
Jack doing these days? Surely he has a little time on his hand. Sandy's busy going to UT ball games. but Gary, come on.
That's my older brother. He doesn't answer to me still,
Still doesn't.
still, even though I'm almost his age now.
And so, Allison, you think you can get the rest of those?
We can get some stuff together.
Get the cousins.
December's good for me. I need some time too.
Okay, yeah, December. We'll do it in December. We'll do another Zoom thing.
I actually have, over the years, and this is before we had iPhones, so I don't have the ones that were on the iPhones, a lot of bar mitzvahs with all the cousins when we had children. So I collected this book, but I know where that one is. But that would be our generation and our kids.
Excellent.
So, Jan, you'd like seeing that.
I would. All right. Well, we've got to go now too. So
okay.
This was
Thank you
wonderful,
so much.
Randy. Wonderful
Thank
you
you,
put this
Randy.
together.
You're welcome.
Appraisal.
I was hoping Asher would be here, but I'm going to make him watch this because I was hoping he would help with gather the younger generation. So let me end this.
There it says leave. Okay.
Okay, so it's good, and
Thank you.
love you guys. And Chag Sameach, Shana Tova. It should be a sweet.
Shana Tova.
See you guys.
It was so nice to see all of you.
It was good.
And Ricky, you look great without your Santa Claus.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you.
We now can see you.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. I
All
understand the
right.
beard
Bye,
is not
guys.
popular. Bye-bye.